As a low-income food deficit country, one of the two main drivers of Gambia's economic growth is agriculture. That's why North Bank Farmers Association was set up to amplify the voice and represent the interests of farmers and other agriculturalists across the country. Through its Eat What You Grow and Grow What You Eat program, the association strives to meet a growing demand for local food by helping its members to raise production efficiently. North Bank Farmers Association offers series of trainings such as practical farms record keeping and agronomics training for its members, especially the women farmers who suffer the most in getting enough to meet their basic food needs. These trainings are aimed at empowering them to improve food security and the economic status of their families. North Bank Farmers Association also supports Gambian women gardeners in the villages to fence their gardens by providing funds for fencing materials such as galvanized wires and fencing poles. This is to help boost their household food, nutrition, and income security. Among the strategic objectives of North Bank Farmers Association is to provide support and funding to build 6 cold storage facilities across the 6 regions of the Gambia and help local women and small-scale holder farmers access good markets to sell their products and services locally and through exportation to neighboring countries and the EU markets. North Bank Farmers Association is also very much into animal husbandry, fish farming, and poultry, geared towards engaging the youth as an alternative to the perilous backway journey to Europe. North Bank Farmers Association, proudly supported by the Gambia Inclusive and Resilient Agricultural Value Chain Development Project GIRAV through Regional Director John Mendy. North Bank Farmers Association, a responsible grassroots model addressing the need for skills in modern agriculture, employment, increase in agricultural productivity, and food security. If you are thinking of a bank that takes care of customers' needs by providing quality services with flexibility, reliability, and innovation, think Trust Bank Limited. With Trust Bank Limited mobile banking, you enjoy services such as balance inquiry, mini statement, funds transfer between accounts, exchange rates, mobile airtime top-up, stop ATM card, checkbook request, and PIN change. Our real-time gross settlement allows the customer to instruct the bank to transfer funds from their account to another account at another bank. Our expertise and experience in international banking is both legendary and the envy of the market. Retail banking, one bank, different amazing packages. Whether you are interested in savings account, current account, time or fixed deposit account, lending or overdraft, our team of dedicated staff is always ready and willing to help you out with your transactions as you wish. Corporate banking. Trust Bank Limited offer the most convenient services for deposit accounts, credit facilities, trade finance, bond and guarantee, and foreign currency account. With e-banking, you can make electronic bill payments and online banking and enjoy 24-hour access to your cash with our ATM. With the largest network of branches and agents, we give you the convenience to receive funds as you please. Trust Bank Limited, proudly Gambian.
fay lempo warugal la si képp koo xam ne doomi réew mi nga ak ñu fi dëkk bu fekkee ne ci at mi sa koom-koom weesu na $24,000 dalasi mbete weer bu nekk di nga am lu tollu si $2,000 dalasi lempo si la nguur gi di sukkandeku ngir liggéey yokkute réew mi GRA mooy banxaas bu nguuri Gambia sas ngir mu fayeku lépp luy lempo ci biir réew mi ba tax na GRA di yëgal faykati lempo yi ne warugal la pour ñu fay lu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment maanaam maanaam bépp contract bu waay joxe te si biir réew mi lañu toog kon xaalis si contract bi ngeen nangutoo war nga cee wàññi ci xayma téeméer bu nekk fukka bu fekkee ne contracto bi dëkkut ci biir réew mi bu boobaa di nga war a wàññi téeméer bu nekk fukka ak juróom lii mooy lempo bu ñu naan withholding tax on contract payment lii mooy lempo bi nga xam ne yow mi joxe contract warugal la nga wëlbatiku dem fay ko ci maakaani GRA tax office bu la gën a jege mbete ci banque yi GRA jagleel pour fay lempo war ngaa jébal lempo bi si diiri fukki fan ak juróom gannaaw bi nga wàññee ci xaalis si contract bi amul benn contracto bu ñu teggil fay lempo bi xanaa mu fekk ne nguuri Gambia ñoo ko jégale boole si projet yi nga xam ne mbootaay ndimbali ñoo koy dépense GRA di fayeku lempo ngir yokk.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Bibliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Bibliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high-quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yaibara.
This is on Kerr Fatou. Fatou.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of our show. Today, Nyang Njie is in the building. It's a reunion. Oli?
Okay.
Nyang Njie moom fii xam nga ne dama ko bëgg a jaxasee gaay yi. Dama ko bëgg a jaxasee gaay yi dafa bañ a dellu si show bi mu ne nag foog ñu dem Sheraton. Xam nga moom budgetam dafa cher. So foog gaay yi nag yokkañu xaalis tuuti because Nyang bëgg na nga dem place bu cher, looks def Nyang dafa cher. Waaye tey moom show bi dina neex ñaari njaayeen lañ fi am mu jàkkaarloo yéen man daal xamoo fu ñu jëm Nyang Njie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be home, and this is my home.
This is home.
I don't need an invitation to come, but when you call on me to come, I will leave everything I'm doing just to come back home because it brings back memories, and the memories were great.
And man, dama nama togay bi la namon. Maa smile, right?
I'm all excited to have Nyang here. Yeah, honestly. And you're right. We need to do a big reunion, and I agree with Nyang. Nyang mama mi ay bur lañ na Fatou. Nyang doesn't do any production that is, you know, quality bi is not. It has to be.
Waaw du loolu sax Oli dafa am loo xam ne dafa war a am mooy. Kerr Fatou is a premier show.
Yeah.
gis nga Gambia dafa naxari ba naxari alxames nit ñi dañ daan dem toog benn béréb di xaar lii kon nag ñu ne liy ràññee ponkal yi ak jën yu sew yi mooy ni ñuy génnee
the boys from the men
ni ñuy génnee
kon daal season 6 nañ ko xaar ñu diggee li mu buggee yëpp nañ ko diggee season 6
Nyang Njie is coming
back on the show Esa today Nyang is our guest. Nyang is, is a common, he started the show, built it to where it is today, and he's back today as a guest, but Nyang Njie in the building. Esa, and this guy, Menteng was supposed to be here, but actually he told us he was going to a conference. He's stuck in Kanilai. He's not able to make it, but we'll have him another time.
Honorable Sanya.
Honorable Menteng Sanya.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's always good to share platforms with Nyang. I think we've shared few platforms.
Yeah.
But I've always been listening to his programs, his interviews. But when he speaks, all that you hear is wisdom, and he's an expert in his area, and that's why it was not a surprise. The main topic of discussion today, Nyang being chosen to be part of it, to be our guest. I think it's a right pick.
Yeah.
So I hope to learn a lot from him, because that's the big fish in the house, the new salary, whatever, the 30% increment, everybody talking about it. What are the economic consequences and all that? That's something that I really want to learn. Economics is not my area, so I'll be here today to listen more.
Yeah.
But I will also, of course, talk from the
political angle to all of this. Yes.
Yeah.
Bringing the political angle and the economic angle to all of this conversation. If you're just joining us, please send us stars. That way we can bring Nyang Njie back. Nyang is expensive. Nyang royalty la. Lim soxla yeb dafa mag. So
but that's true. Njie ni ay bur lañ. So
no, that's a given.
Yeah. So ñun.
Suma mama la ka fay ko Père Njie mama ringo. Père Njie mama ringo. Why not? It's good to have you back, Nyang. What we'll do first is we'll give an update, like trending issues. We know that the Bob Sainabou case is on. Sainabou was in court yesterday, and her lawyers were seeking to get her bail because the state up to now have not filed anything apart from what the prosecutors sent to the magistrate court in Kanifing. Her lawyers, Kumba is leading the team. Kumba and Sagar and the rest were in court yesterday to get her and her brothers released. But hopefully tomorrow they're going back to court again, because actually the judge did not say no to the bail application because there's nothing there. There's no file from the Ministry of Attorney General's Chambers. So, but what the judge was saying is you have to formally apply, not just oral applications. Actually his quote exactly was, you have brought cases like this and I granted them bail, but you have to do it formally. And the lawyers requested to do it tomorrow, that is Friday. So they will be back in court. The state is still investigating. They said they're waiting for the post-mortem for Bibi Mohammed. That will determine what charges they will be amending for her. So that's the update on that case. And then we are also going to talk about the fuel in prices. It seems we're going to have an issue in Nyang Njie because yesterday the GCCI called a press conference to update the population about what is happening. It seems like there's an issue between the fuel importers and the Ministry of Finance. According to them, the Ministry of Finance increased the price last time without any consultation with them. And they're also losing out money because the fuel prices in the international market and all of that, they're losing money. So yesterday they held a press conference to update the Gambians. If the ministry is not responding to them until Friday, they will not be importing fuel, according to them. So Charles, we'll watch the video first. When we watch that video, so people have an idea what we're talking about. Because if we don't have importers bringing fuel, then we're going back to what happened. So let's watch that video. When we come back, then we can have, Nyang is an expert in that, so he'll be able to explain to us what that really is. So Charles, let's watch that, please.
The Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, GCCI, on Wednesday called on the press to discuss the challenges of the petroleum price structure in the Gambia. Speaking to journalists, Momodo Haider, General Manager at Jawel Petroleum Company, highlights the challenges that the oil marketing companies are facing with price structure.
It is standard practice in the Gambia that the Minister of Finance sets monthly prices for the retail of diesel and petrol in consultation with the OMCs and Pura. That has been the norm in order to maintain fuel price stability in the country. Over the past year, fuel prices have been increasing all over the world due to very high demand following the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. These events have led to increased costs of importation of fuel into the Gambia, making it more expensive for the final consumers and pushing up inflation across the economy.
He adds that the oil marketing companies have engaged the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs in May, informing them that they have experienced significant losses due to the immense support to the government since October last year.
We, the OMCs, have supported the government immensely since October of last year to help curb the rising price of fuel by agreeing to reduce our profit margins per liter of fuel that we sell. We engaged the Minister of Finance in May of this year to inform them that OMCs experienced significant losses due to the May fuel price set by the government. That was our first engagement with government. The new prices for August were set by the Minister of Finance and Minister of Petroleum without consultation with the OMCs, thus breaching the norms set by the committee. This current pricing means that we will not be able to continue importing and selling fuel to the public as it cannot cover the costs of importation of fuel and other costs not provided for by the government pricing instrument. For example, you cannot logically force a shopkeeper to sell a product costing $10 at $7, as it will force the shopkeeper to shut down his businesses. It's a similar scenario we are faced with today.
Hydra informed the public that the pricing of fuel products in the Gambia is entirely regulated by the government.
It is important that the general public is aware and be informed that pricing of fuel products in the Gambia is 100% regulated by the government of the Gambia. That means our purchase price, selling price, and determination of margins are all set by the government, and OMCs must comply. That is the norm. This is why we are called a 100% regulated sector. We urgently call on the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Petroleum to review the current price in consultation with the OMCs to avoid further disruption to our economy, which is already in a difficult situation.
Despite the situation, Hydra and colleagues in the business are hopeful that the government will take immediate and necessary steps to remedy the situation by Friday to ensure continuity and stability in the petroleum sector and the economic. Reporting for Kerr Fatou, I am Ramatulai Jao.
Thank you very much, Ramatulai Nyang. You heard the report. I think it's a serious situation. They said if the government and the Minister of Finance and Petroleum do not take action by Friday, there might be disruption in ordering fuel products. What is that? What does that mean for our economy?
Well, fuel, first and foremost, is a strategic product that runs across all sectors of the economy. And what Gambia is currently going through is called stagflation. Stagflation meaning high inflation rates and low to negative economic growth. So the Gambian economy is not growing. I like to say that the Gambian economy is on vacation. But notwithstanding, in as much as it's on vacation, the inflation levels, they're not hyper, but they're persistently heading upward. There are two types of issues here that they need to clarify for the public. You have importers and dealers. The dealer come what may, cannot lose money because petroleum in the Gambia is a regulated market. So you have a pump price, how much it is sold. You have how much it's going to cost you per liter, and you have a guaranteed margin. So the government is not giving them a negative margin. That is for the petrol station owners. But also we have what you call importers. Importers is anyone who has an import license can buy fuel, and when they buy fuel, there is an importer margin built into it. So the dealer is / importer at the same time. I don't want to call any petrol station name, but some of them are importer / dealer.
Yeah.
So the way the pricing is set up is very simple. We have what you call Platts, Platts, and the Gambia use Platts Northwest Europe. That's the indicator we use. So the government is not just setting price because they want to set price. They do an average from 1st of August to the last day of August. Today the market closed at X, Platt Northwest Europe. Tomorrow it's closing at Y. So the average is what they put there. So the only variable there that is, I wouldn't say negotiable, is what you call the premium. The premium is how much it's going to cost you for your insurance, how much is going to cost you for your freight, and how much your margin is going to be. In this current time, I think the petroleum importers should understand that the government of the Gambia is highly constrained because they want to tame inflation. So if they increase their margins for them, the end user, you and I, will have to pay a pump price of $90 to $103. And that's going to create a hyperinflation environment, and nobody wins, including the importer that's importing. So right now, this is the time for a sacrifice. And the sacrifice is a bitter pill. But it hasn't been done in a comprehensive way. It needs to be done in a comprehensive way whereby the government of the Gambia come up with a comprehensive structural adjustment program. All of us need to sacrifice for Gambia to move on, starting with the office of the president, cutting down on some of their expenditures, starting with the army, starting with everywhere else except the hospitals, education, and maybe agriculture. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. This is a global phenomenon.
But Nyang, fuel price is not going down in other countries, because I was watching CNN and I saw a report that the fuel price in the US have gone down for the past 50 days, consistently have been going down. Yep. Is that not because of the world market?
Well, you need to understand one thing. Commodity trading, you have features and spot. You cannot sit in Gambia and you wait until a week before you want fuel, you order fuel. So you buy in the futures market. Spot price is you can go into the market today, whatever is quoted you pay. But that's not also good for the supplier because fuel is very erratic internationally, goes up and down. So you need to program your procurement, and also sometimes you can even buy 2-3 months in advance if you see and understand the trend, how it's going. And another thing is logistics. Having fuel is one thing, having a vessel to bring it is another thing. And the port of Gambia, fortunately with fuel, you don't have to go to the Banjul port because we have, what you call ship to shore. We have a pipe in the middle of the river Gambia before Mandinari that when a ship comes, they connect there. But the size of ships coming to Gambia are smaller because of draft, because of the parcel size that comes to Gambia. Some countries, they order 30,000 tons, metric tons a month. Some countries order 100,000 tons. But in Gambia, 18,000 tons to 21,000 tons can fill our tanks plus whatever is left. So the economic parcel size coming to Gambia are small. So shipping cost to Gambia per metric ton is more expensive relative to other countries. So small is good, but small can also be a disadvantage. And in many instances in trading, vis-a-vis, other bigger countries, we suffer.
We're in a situation like, as Esther said today, we're here actually to learn. We're not economists, and we don't really
especially in this area.
But then watching the GCCI report, I'm trying to understand how does GCCI fit into this equation, because it seems like they are the ones that held the press conference. We had the importers, coming to talk, and now there's somehow a little ultimatum given to government. So how does all of this unfold?
Well, GCCI have stakeholders.
Yeah.
They're members, the members of the chamber. And the importers are members of the chamber. So right now it's the responsibility of the chamber to advocate for them. But I think what they have done, that's not the way I would have approached it. Why? They're pegging the society or the population against government. So right now, if they pull the plug, you and I will blame government. Yep. I think this is the time we need to understand. I'm a big critic of government, but right now we also need to understand the dynamics. Our economic environment is very volatile, and we should be the government of the Gambia should be very mindful to make sure that social unrest will not be triggered. And food, commodity prices like fuel, cash power, these are things that can hit a button that none of us will want. And that's why the stakeholders need to work with government, whereby they will not put government, direct on a head-on with us on a collision course.
Okay. Wow. Now, Esa, you want to come in there? Or
I was going to come in there. In fact, where he stopped, that has to do with a situation of social unrest. Because when people are pushed to the corner, especially in dire economic situation like ours, many a times they have no option, especially when they do not understand how these things work. All that they do is to blame the government. All the misery that is happening, they just put it on the government, that it's responsible and they have to do something about it. Because if you talk to a lot of people out there in the streets, all that they will tell you is that the prices of fuel is going up, government has to do something, government has to reduce. But how can government reduce the price of fuel? As he rightly said, they cannot even do it. This is a global phenomenon. But then I think also, like he said, it requires sacrifice in terms of spending or allocation, budget allocation to certain offices, ranging from the office of the president. And of course, the economic consequences of some of these things are things that a lot of people are not aware of. And suddenly what we saw just last week, and of course that's the main topic, salary increment of 30%. How will the government sustain some of these things, knowing fully well that COVID-19 is even at the corner? We can't say COVID-19 is gone. Maybe it's in coma, but coming back. The Ukraine crisis is still on, and the government obviously is saying that some of these challenges are really affecting the economy. So how do you reconcile the global economic trend or situation with the small market that we have, like you said, our stagnant economy that we have? How do you reconcile that with also increasing the salaries of civil servants by 30% and ensuring that is also sustainable? Because at the end of the day, people also, because a lot of us do not understand some of these things. If you talk to a lot of people out there about the salary increment, some will say, because for me it's a political strategy or tactic used by the government, and people will be like, okay, salaries have increased. Now, I think we'll get to that. But if you increase somebody's salary by 30% and the person is receiving an additional $800, I mean, now when you buy fuel for $1,000, it wouldn't even take you 3 days. I remember like a few months ago, when I buy $1,000, it will take me like 4 days, sometimes 5 days. But now $1,000 is mostly, in fact, 2 days. You come to Kerr Fatou, you go back, or you go to Brikama, it's done. You have to buy again. Just 2 days ago, I filled my tank with I think $2,000, and it wasn't even up to full tank. And then I remember when I put $2,000, when I have, let's say, $500 there, at $2,000 is full tank. Yeah. But when I added $2,000, I realized that I have to add. Yesterday I was trying to be very, economical with money, but I had no choice but to go and just refill. Because, like you said, if GCCI, the fuel importers are giving ultimatum to government that before Friday they have to hear something from them, otherwise they could do something. So it means we might have shortage of fuel. If fuel is not coming in, how does this affect, because it has consequences, the movement of people, because people have to go out and work, people have to go and look for something to come and get, exactly, not only cash power, but you have to go out and bring something to put it on the table for your family.
Nawek itself.
Yeah, Nawek itself.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, it's a cycle. The consequence or the effects, goes around and touches almost every sector of lives and livelihoods of the people. So, like you said, the sacrifice is required. But what we are seeing, whether that sacrifice is being manifested by government, and also making people understand some of these things, I think is very, very important. That is why you need a vibrant government. When I say vibrant government, this has to do with effectively communicating with the people.
Absolutely.
To understand some of these things. A lot of people don't know these things. Even fuel price, when it goes up, some people are not even bothered. As long as fares have not increased, they are not bothered. But not knowing, at the end of the day, fares must increase. Because, vehicle owners, I mean, some of these commercial drivers, I mean, cannot also... fuel prices cannot be increasing at the same time the fares are stagnant. So the only time people feel it is when fares have increased, when they are directly affected.
I like what you're saying, but you see, I think the biggest weakness of this country is they have what you call reactionary public policy measures.
Instead of proactive.
We have to be proactive. You see, this issue could have been resolved. You have what you call a price structure. If you want to create a stable, Gambia can create a stable pump price whereby today, in as much as the world market is so high, we can have fuel at $65. It's possible.
How is that possible?
Simple. You create a price structure that has what you call FLUMARA, fluctuating market rates. What does that mean? Oil prices sometimes goes down so much. So you keep your pump price at $65. But the true cost of the product may be $35, taxes, margins, and everything else. So 35 from 65, the difference, you open a bank account and leave that money there. Then when oil prices go up, you go back to that bank account, take that cash, and smoothen the prices. So people, you and I, we will not see price changes. What does that mean? You can have 7, 9, 13 months whereby prices are low. So you are making a savings, and that savings, government should not eat it. It should go into a sterile account. They keep the funds there. Now, if prices go to $90, that $30 they were saving per liter, now they call up on that money, put it into the price structure, and it evens out. So no one will know the erratic swings in prices. And it has happened in Gambia. And it was done in the Gambia in the late 90s and early 2000s.
So Nyang, but you know, when these new prices came into effect about a month ago, it was said that government was subsidizing for all these months. For all these months. Of course, the World Bank, the donor partners made it known that that is not realistic. They cannot afford it. Obviously, you know, our collection, GRA collection, cannot just even sustain what we are spending. How can we also subsidize for fuel? Now, what else, apart from this you've said, what else do you think government can do to reduce the prices? Because if the importers are saying they're losing out on money, and of course, us, the consumers, don't want the prices to go. But at the end of the day, government is the one who sets these prices. Now, what do they have to do? They cannot continue to subsidize for the population.
Well, there's two issues here. Government needs a medium-term plan to really come up with a sustainable pricing model, how to price petroleum in the Gambia. And you are dealing with a volatile and erratic product. So you cannot leave it to chance and market conditions. We can even have a price at 175. And in the Gambia right now, we're having 2 external factors that are affecting prices, or even 3. Supply chain constraints, price of petroleum, and dollar exchange rate. So these are exogenous factors that are beyond the control of the government of the Gambia. So that's why it's good for the government of the Gambia to institute a pricing model that will stabilize prices by having a buffer, and the buffer should be kept when prices are low and, you know, executed when prices are high. That's one. In terms of subsidy, the first principle of economics, you cannot give what you don't have. The government of the Gambia is now looking for budget support from its multilateral partners, particularly the World Bank. You cannot ask me for money only to be giving out. Yeah. I cannot maintain a lavish lifestyle. Just look at it at a household. If you have a child who has a lavish lifestyle, you cannot maintain that. So subsidies, you only subsidize based on what you have. So, and the way the government of the Gambia subsidizes is you suppress your taxes. what people should have paid in taxes, you let go. So that letting go, it's staying to the person who was supposed to. So it's not like a cash handout. So government is foregoing revenue to make prices low. And if government does that, we're having deficit financing. If we have deficit financing, we have an unsustainable domestic debt. So there is no way out of it. It's a vicious cycle or circle. And right now, the Minister of Finance, I've always said this, I feel sorry for this current Minister of Finance because he has inherited a mess. The way budgeting has been done in the Gambia in the past 4 years is voodoo economics. What is voodoo economics?
What is voodoo economics?
Yeah, it's economics that's not based on any sound macroeconomic fundamentals. What do I mean when I say this? When you're budgeting, you must first look at your resources. What do I have available? How much can my economy generate? Then based on that, you have what you call a resource envelope. When you have your resource envelope, you now make your expenditures to be in line with your resource envelope, but with what you call sectoral priorities. But what has been happening in the Gambia, whether we like it or not, for 4 consecutive years, we are going to the parliament asking for supplementary appropriation. That means that the projected figures that they use to create a balanced budget were fictitious. 4 years in a row, you're going for a supplementary. Something is fundamentally wrong with your projections. And in projections, you have best case, worst case, and medium case.
Is it because, COVID-19? Nobody budgeted for COVID-19.
Let's stop. No.
Actually, but nobody budgeted for COVID-19.
It was not coming from us.
I'm beginning to hate.
We're not part of the budget.
The initial.
Fatu, I'm beginning to hate this lame excuse of Ukraine, COVID-19. Nations take responsibility for their mess-ups. And in the Gambia, our fiscal operations need to take responsibility for our mess-up, because what happened in 2018, late 2018 to date, is what you call fiscal dominance. Fiscal dominance is a bullish budget, a budget that is overly ambitious. Why? Because the technocrats have now, they're willing to be strange bedfellows with politicians. It was a political season. The politicians were talking about building roads. Whatever wish list they had, someone make that basically, who was making it happen is the Santa Claus. So the Santa Claus was Ministry of Finance. But what they were not telling the public, they were borrowing money to do this project, starting with the Banjul Road, the Nyomi Hakalang. See, where we are today is a consequence of what happened in the past.
Is the Hakalang Road financed by the government entirely? Because
it's
that's what
GLF.
they say.
You see, Gambia Local Fund is what's financing it, what's financing Banjul. So there's no donor funds. And what that means is taxpayer money. Yeah. So when you are short with taxes and you have a commitment to pay, you borrow. When you borrow, that's deficit financing. It affects your domestic debt.
I want to come in there because it's good that you clarified that, because the government, when the president was laying the foundation stone for that, he said this is the only road project under his leadership or his government that is entirely funded by the Gambia government. So you're saying something, because you said something initially, which has to do with when you're planning budget, you look at your resource avenues where you're going to generate resources, for instance, finance. And I want to believe that tax collection is one resource avenue, generating avenues, right? But this will also have to, because it's also about how much you generate, how much you plan. Because you said we do always, whenever they come, they go to Parliament to get supplementary appropriation bill, meaning what has been budgeted for. They ask for something that has not been budgeted for. Meaning we have not.
No, they're not asking for what hasn't been budgeted for. You have a revenue shortfall. The budget is there. That's your expenditure. So the expenditure side didn't change.
Okay.
But what justifies expenditure is revenues.
Okay.
So your revenues are not forthcoming. So since they're not forthcoming,
so you don't
you're going
have
to Parliament to ask them authority to raise new money.
So that means you don't have a balanced budget.
No,
right?
the budget was balanced initially on paper.
Okay.
But it's not balanced because the projections that they use to say that this is how much money we will make through the course of the year were not realistic. And that is criminal if you ask me.
I want to ask that question because people have been saying this, that since independence we've never had a balanced budget. Have we ever had a balanced budget?
Yes. in a way, because many years in the past we didn't have what you call an SAB. If you didn't have an SAB, it meant that you live within what has been appropriated. When your budget is not balanced is when you go back and ask for new money. But we have two problems here that need to be addressed immediately. Parliament has what you call an oversight function. And that oversight function should be taken seriously. So the Parliament needs to have what you call an Office of the Management of Budget. They create their own data set. The police that's policing the police should not rely on the police to give them data. Ministry of Finance should not give data to the Parliament to scrutinize, because then there is no oversight.
I just want to say, this is important. That has to do with oversight. And I mean, I'm so worried. I'm worried in the sense that all these things that you're talking about, you know, these are very complex issues.
No, they're not complex.
I mean, complex for a layperson like me. Complex for a layperson, a parliamentarian who is in parliament there, who does not even understand the basic principles of some of these things.
But they need to hire subject
matter. That's what I'm saying. That's why I said
short term.
But that is why I said I am worried, because we're not having subject matter specialists on some of these things. You're talking about creating an office of budget management. These things are not existing there. These are people who barely understand what is even written, especially some of these principles of economics and budgeting and all that. So when these things come to them, and they are the ones who have the final say. We're talking about the 30% budget, salary increment. How many of them even know the economic consequences of these things, looking at our current economic situation? So if you have a parliament where a lot of people there have no basic understanding of some of these things, then we are doomed, because these are the people that finally approve some of these things.
And not only that, even the oversight role they have, it's not all of them actually even understand what that oversight role means. So, I mean, as Esther said, we definitely have a big problem. And, I mean, I definitely believe that we need experts, because even myself, I'm just sitting here and watching Nyang trying to understand what Nyang is saying.
It's more like a lecture.
I would call myself,
it's a more like a lecture, right?
But it's understandable, because it's not your area.
It's not
so these people that are in
a lot of people would have a problem to even understand the basics of basically what...
Especially parliamentarian, because they are the voice of the people.
What is the solution, and who is the person, or who are the people or departments responsible? I understand it's Ministry of Finance, but who do they need to work with to ensure that we find a solution to this?
You see, Ministry of Finance is the executive.
Okay.
The executive prepares their budget. The legislative now needs to scrutinize and say, this is what your budget is going to be. But where are they going to base their numbers to say, I'm going to cut X, Y, and Z, other than getting data from the Ministry of Finance, the one you should have oversight function on? So that's a fundamental problem, and this has been a flaw in our public governance architecture from independence to date, and it suited the executive branch of government for the longest. A weak legislature is good for the executive. Now, it's time for this to change, and the people who can change it are the people in Parliament. Why? They can set up an institution tomorrow, and no one will stop them, and it will be funded, and it will be in the public's interest to have an Office of the Management of Budget, whereby they don't even want to know what Ministry of Finance data set is. You are projecting that next year you're going to collect so much. I will go and look at the trade volume coming into Gambia. I will look at the tax rates. I will look at the inland revenue, corporate taxes, and say, this is it. So I also know that this should, my assumption is, this should be the resource envelope that this economy can generate. And mind you, Gambia has been shooting itself on the foot for the past 4 years, because we have overburdened the economy with taxation, and that shrinks the economy.
And borrowing as well.
Well, yes. So basically,
a national debt of $80 billion.
Yes. So now what needs to change is leadership that sees Gambia first. Yes, I'm in the executive, but I also want to help to empower the legislature to hold me accountable.
Now, talking about
just one thing. You said that Office of Budget Management. What is the role of the budgeting Directorate of Budgeting at the Ministry of Finance? I think they have a director.
But you need to understand one thing.
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Ministry of Finance should prepare their budget
and bring.
Now they should take it to the People's Parliament.
Okay, so there should be a body to manage.
The People's Parliament, they have an oversight responsibility to make sure that the resources of this country are well spent. So now they need a data set to justify why they want to cut or increase.
Yeah.
But the data set they're using today is already from the
Ministry of Finance.
the police that you're supposed to police.
Yeah.
So that we need now an office that will question.
I think that has to do with oversight most.
Yes.
Yes.
So if that happens, society will be better off.
Now, talking about society, that is a challenge, the fuel issue. But we have another challenge. Recently, we have seen the floods that happened across the country. It was all over the country. And to be honest, this is not just first this year. It's every single rainy season we deal with this. We do GoFundMes. People go take monies to these people. We help them to pick up their lives. Some of them still cannot pick up their lives after 4 years. Now, the president was out and said the government is going to spend about $80 million to help with the infrastructure to avert
and another 43 million.
And another 43 million also. Now, I had my brother question that before we pump in 100 and something million dollars, let's talk about what we have spent already. This is really serious because at the end of the day, I do know what, I remember Mustafa dealt with the Banjul project, how, the project itself was supposed to overhaul the entire drainage system in Banjul. Today, Banjul is floating. Yeah. And that was not supposed to happen.
What's the budget for that?
That was for $40 million.
$40 million.
Yeah. $40 million.
Dollars.
Yeah. Dollars. And it was supposed to be pre-financed. But we do know it was not. But again, when you have projects like that, and now the president is saying we want to inject more money, that is welcoming. That's what we want.
No, it's not welcoming.
This is not sustainable. What is happening?
Forget about sustainability.
But Nyang, this is bad. What is happening?
Forget about sustainability. What needs to happen? Like I said earlier, in Gambia we have reactionary public policy. We have a problem of drain. They're going to look for money and fix drain today. No. Urban Gambia needs a master plan. The master plan will have things that need to be done in phases. Drainage is part of it. Road network is part of it. Electrification is part of it. Urban development is part of it. Having parks and recreation centers are part of it. So we need a master plan for Greater Banjul area. And this master plan will address everything that a modern city needs. So when we cost it, we're looking at maybe $60 billion. So we say over 20 years, we're going to spend $60 billion. These are the most immediate needs, and these are the key areas that we're going to intervene first. Then your master plan will dictate your development aspirations. But today, there is no master plan for Greater Banjul area. There is no urban development plan. There is no fiscal planning and zoning. Gambia government, I'm sorry, but I will say it. We run this country like a village, and sometimes I wonder whether our technocrats have been to school. Yes, they have gone to school, but business as usual hasn't changed. We need to adapt to best global practices. And as a country, we've refused. Gambia, no problem, anything goes. That's why this country is so backward, and up until that is not changed, we will always throw good money in a bad decision and a bad project. And that's what's happening.
Okay, so but then let's look at the other areas. For Banjul, for Banjul is definitely a special case, and I think Nyang would definitely have knowledge to talk about how to fix that. But let's take Kotu and Manjai for instance. Yon in Dohbe, people have built their houses there. I remember my grandfather being.
Well, whose fault is that? Physical planning.
Physical planning. I know. Yeah. That's what I'm coming to say. Physical planning. So for me, it's not only even government and the Banjul project, but this is it's like basically the whole Gambia. But let's take for example Kotu. Money has not been pumped in there. Let's say there's no Banjul project rehabilitation like at Kotu. But then physical planning as well. I think they need to be more. They have to be held accountable, because if you look at Kotu, for example, my grandfather was Alcalo, and then every time he would have to go there and ask these people to vacate, because basically and physical planning for me, what are they doing?
Oli,
that's the question.
When it comes to what Nyang was saying, urban planning,
what is physical planning as a department?
Forget about physical planning. You see, Gambia, we have what you call a silo mentality. We work in silos. Each department is doing their own thing. There's no synchronization in what happens collectively. Public administration is a machinery. and the machinery has different parts and organs, and they must have synergy and synchronization. So what needs to happen? Seriously, we need to take development seriously and come up with a greater Banjul master plan, an urban development master plan. The master plan will look at water, electricity, schools, roads, dwellings, where stores should be, where stalls should not be, parks and recreation, anything and everything. But once that is done, we will now begin to have what you call oceans of excellence instead of islands of excellence. Gambia government needs to change the way they do business, but we need people with a global mindset that are willing to act locally to adapt to global standards.
But like you said, we have technocrats. Sometimes you wonder whether they've been to school. Yes, they've been to school. I mean, it goes back to our education system once again. I mean, no, I'm coming because you're talking about urban planning here. I mean, you go to the UTG, for instance, you have development studies as a course being mounted, being running. And some of these people that we produce will do this course called urban design or urban planning. They do this as a course. I mean, these are people that we will send out there to go and study. But then the priorities are these areas, like I always say, our education system must be tailored to suit our development realities. And sadly, this is not the case. What we have, even the so-called development partners, countries that are giving us scholarships, like China will do, I mean, they give us scholarships in public administration, areas probably that are not of urgent interest to this country, because this is not where our development is.
What's the interest of China to educate you?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, it has to do with
independence is not free.
It has to do with that.
We need to change our Pajero V8 mentality and put monies where development will have a dividend.
And that's
you see. Let me tell you what's the biggest problem. The Gambia of my grandparents was a better Gambia than this Gambia. I'll tell you why. You had a housing planning unit. You cannot build a soccerway in your house without drawing a plan, sending it to them to approve. You cannot build a boys' quarters in your house without sending to them for approval. What has changed? Public administration has collapsed in this country. We used to have great technocrats. They understand the public machinery and they have experience in all sectors of public administration. Now, if you were the Minister of Finance 1980, you look at the total number of years experience of the technical cadre, you will have over 2,000 years of experience combined. Go to the Ministry of Finance today, you have permanent secretaries that haven't even been in the civil service for 3 years. How can you run a country's public administration when you don't even understand what UFS means? Let's be serious. We are not a serious nation, and so long as that's the mindset we have, we will be a village. Just go across to Dakar, you will see a country that is moving and want to move. You come to Gambia, you see that this country loves to be a village and will forever be a village.
What he said
now, we don't want to be a village. To be honest,
we don't want to.
No, we don't want to be a village.
A country is a reflection of its people.
Yeah, we just spent 40 million on a project in Banjul. I think that I mean,
look, don't you think?
But $40 million could build Banjul, Fatou.
No. But look, here is a problem.
Could build Banjul.
Fatou, I'm not an engineer.
It's for that. It was supposed to.
I'm not an engineer, but I know that in swampy areas, people like to use what you call interlocking bricks. If you go into the Inzigen Shore right before the brick, because it's swampy, they made sure they compact the place and put interlocking bricks. So when it rains, the water sips. That's number one. When you're dealing with your sewage, you raise those interlocking bricks, deal with the sewage and close it. The Banjul project, if government was serious, you know what they will do? They will invest money in a concrete plant, massive concrete plant. Just make bricks. And guess what? The youths of the country, because laying interlocking bricks needs no skill. So they will need engineers who will do gradients, do the compactions, and supervisors to supervise these kids to fix these roads. They will get jobs.
But Nyang, what do you think?
And we will have roads.
But what do you think is the problem right now? Okay, since we have invested in that project, what is the problem of that project? It was supposed to address this.
But there's no accountability.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is procurement.
But that's what I'm saying.
Done the right way?
Public procurement in Gambia. How many months did we have a procurement bill that is yet to be in Parliament? Number one.
Yeah.
Yamaneh and wheeler dealing is what our public administrators want. It gives them discretion. Discretion should not be. We should have a rule-based procurement system.
We have a Gambia Procurement Authority.
My friend.
They oversee all these projects.
Oversight. I'm talking about a procurement legislation.
Okay.
Look at this contract. It was single-sourced. It's an EPC contract, which I don't have a problem with.
Which contract?
The Banjul project.
Yeah.
But in as much as it was single-sourced, you should have invited others to bid and say, we will also finance. Then you look at the best possible. You don't take public monies and just give it to someone because they say they can do this for you. You need to reference to see whether your prices are right. You need to have designs, or he needs to bring you designs that are functional, because what we have in Banjul is very simple. I am not an engineer, but I can tell you why Banjul is flooding.
That's what I want. Yeah, why is it flooding right
Banjul
now?
is flooding because water is volume. If you want to disperse volume, you need a reservoir where you're going to store it. Now, where they're storing that water right now, they have built on most of that land, number one. Number two, the drainage in Banjul was built in the 50s, most of it. Climate change has changed the dynamics. Those drains are not steep and they're not deep. So you need two things to evacuate water: speed and depth. So those drains now need to be dug deeper with steeper gradients so that water evacuation moves fast to get to the wetlands, if there are still wetlands left. So drainage rehabilitation is not cementing a crack. It's making our drains deeper and steeper. So when they fill with water, it can evacuate, let's say, 1,000 cubic meters of water per hour. Today, maybe it cannot evacuate 300 cubic meters of water per hour. And the rain pattern today is not the same rain pattern in 1960, 1970, 1980. So what has changed? And I wonder whether our engineers are thinking. I'm a layman. I am seeing things from a layman's perspective. I have a problem to evacuate water. So I need more space for water to come in so that it will not overflow, and I need speed for the water to move.
I mean, talking about that, it's not only about the flooding when it comes to the Banjul project, but also look at some of these road projects that are being. I mean, look at Sukuta, Latrikunda, you look at Jambur, Farato. For me, it's not only about flooding, but also the quality of some of these roads.
I was gonna come there.
You just come and pour.
But do you know why that happens? For example, is the consultants or the like when you give contract to Nyang Njie, there's somebody who comes to look at, for example, the thickness of the road is supposed to be 3 centimeters, right?
But you've gone far. You should start with the design.
Yeah,
even the
design dictates the supervision of the contract.
The design.
So the problem here is, with our roads, I think our parliament is doing a disservice to Gambians. And I will tell you why. When you and I buy fuel at the pump, I think there's $2 or whatever per liter that goes to NRA. So calculate the amount of liters bought a year and you multiply that money. We should not be doing road rehabilitation, but every year we should be able to have 4 to 5 good kilometers of road added to our existing road network.
All these roads that Barrow is building,
they've washed away most of them in the past 2 years. Yeah, roads are washing away. I mean, I've seen new roads that
even Canifing from Iceland.
That's where I was coming on. For example, if Gambia government is paying for a road that the thickness is supposed to be 3 centimeters, and then we get a road that is 1.5, right? That is the job of the consultant. Like, is it the consultant or the person? Consultant, right? Because if you give me a contract and I said I'm ready, it is the consultant who comes and monitor, check those roads and certify that what is on the contract is what you deliver before you are paid. Now these consultants, then they deal sometimes allegedly with the constructors, and then you are supposed to give us a 3-meter road and you deliver a 1.5 and he signs the PV and you are paid.
Yeah, but Fatou, the problem is
it's not just one man issue.
No, but you have a problem. You see, when you have a consultant, you want an intermediary, someone between the two contracting parties. Government is the one who is requesting for roads. The contractor is the one saying, I'm going to make the roads. The consultant is an arbiter, a referee, to make sure that what is on contract, it's done on the ground. Then he will do a certification so that the other party, government, will pay. But if you have a cozy relationship between government, contractor, and consultant, it's the public and society that suffers. And right now, that's why I said that Parliament needs stronger oversight to cut some of this mess that's happening. Even a road today, a contractor can save $3 to $4 million on a road by just doing two things. You have 7.5 meter width by 11 kilometers that you should do. You have a thickness of 20 centimeters. And not only the thickness, is telling you that your bitumen to basalt ratio should be X. You can play with these numbers, and every 1 kilometer you make a saving of $200,000. Before you finish the 11 kilometers, you've made enough savings, and this is what is happening. And that's why when it's very hot sometimes, you will see our bitumen just melting. Because there is not enough aggregates in the bitumen mix.
I'm just looking at the airport roads here, and I was passing the other day. I said, how quick this road is. I mean, they are not ready, but look at this. We have here. So it's start with even is the contract giving who they should give the contract.
But that's why procurement.
That's the thing. That's the first problem we have, because you know very well that Oli is a scientist. So you said, Oli, go and fix the road by the airport. You know very well that Oli does not even have the capacity. Oli does not have the know-how, but you would give it to Oli because you know that, okay, if I give it to Oli for every 1 kilometer, I have this much there. So that is the problem that we have. So I think at some point, us as citizens, because it comes back to us, we should be, people should be held accountable. This is something I've been saying for the longest time. Really, National Assembly would invite you, you come, you explain yourself, they let you go. I have really never seen anybody facing...
the contractor in Banjul right now, the National Assembly at the plenary level he cannot be called in. His company cannot be called in. They can call him at committee level, but plenary, he cannot. You can call government. They're the people who gave the contract.
So I want to say, still talking about the flooding and all that, in Banjul. But then, if you look at new settlements today, in the greater Banjul area or in the Combos here, you go to Jambanjeli, you go to Sanyang, you go to Tanje, Jabang.
The estate.
Exactly, Jabang and even Jambur N. What is the physical planning or the government doing with those new settlements? Now, if you say, okay, probably Banjul was built, in the 50s or in the 40s, coming to areas like Serakunda, we can't do anything about those. But how about the new places where people are settling? What are you putting in place? Any proper drainage system?
Master plan.
That's what I'm saying. So the absence of a master plan. All those things cannot be done in the absence of a master plan.
Development is deliberate. Development is planned, and development is programmed. So now you need a master plan. That's the vision of the modern Greater Banjul we want to have. If you have that master plan, it will call for drainages, it will call for water, and the master plan will tell you the growth rate of this. Like right today, Brikama is one of the fastest growing cities in the Gambia. We have 3 problems looming in Brikama: health, school, access to social services. We don't have adequate schools and we don't have adequate health relative to the population. Today, a master planner would have told you, Gambia, you have a problem. You say, what's the problem? They'll tell you that 75% of your population live in less than 22% of your total land mass. What does that mean? From Banjul to Katong to Pirang or Bonto,
You have more people.
That's where 75% of Gambians live.
25% are...
So today, when you're coming up with a master plan, you will have a policy that says, okay, some businesses that doesn't require too much skill or too much infrastructure, we, the government of the Gambia, will give you an incentive if you're willing to move to Farafenye and set up shop. 5 years, no corporate taxes. That's what you call urban development. That's what you call enterprise development. And that's what's going to disperse our population, because we already had rural-urban drift, and that's why we need a master plan. And the master plan will not only look at infrastructure, but it will look at how to bring back people in communities that have been deserted. We need to sit down today and say, the Gambia we want 50 years from now will look like this, not this NDP thing. A master plan.
But then the master plan you're talking about require a lot of funding, and it's a long-term program.
What is the short-term solution?
Now,
lot of funding?
It's going to need a lot of funding.
A master plan today will need nothing less than $15 to $20 million to do, because it's multi-sectoral. What is $20 million for us to invest to tell us how we should live in the next 75 years?
No, I'm not talking about just the plan. I'm talking about developing the plan and implementing it. Because you just said our economy is on big.
But
that's a different thing. No, but what I'm saying, if you have this master plan, you're gonna need to start implementing it, because as we speak now,
we are implementing public infrastructure, but we are implementing.
It is not done in the context of the industry. It is done in the
master plan. To do like now, now,
that's what
to avert this next year.
Allow me. We are a government. A government should not think of today.
You're thinking of
public policy is not for today. Public policy should be responsive. Public policy should have a purpose, and public policy should serve a need. The government of the Gambia has been firefighting since 2016. This government. Firefighting means an issue comes up, bam, we approach and fix it. We need a deliberate policy. So this master plan will say, okay, we wanted to do this highway. The master plan says this is the way it should be done. This is the priority area. So the funds are there. We are doing projects, but we are doing projects in the absence of a greater vision for the new modern Gambia we want to live.
And Fatou, when this flooding happened, when the president went out, the vice president, the mayor came. You know, one thing that I could not even understand, also disheartening for me, was you get to these people had floods, and you get to their houses. All that you had to do was to go around the places and promise that we're going to fix this, when they have water in their homes, in their houses. I think the immediate action from the government was, how do you get these people? How do you get the water out? How do you pump it out?
How do you give them food and all the stuff? I watch a family yesterday, they don't even have the
you just went there and you're talking to them when they don't have any place to sleep. You're telling them that, okay, we will pump in $80 million or $46 million to do this, that, and that, and that.
Immediate relief.
I mean, that is it. All that you're giving them is bag of rice, and then the mentality, Fatou, in this country, that when these things happen, we said it's natural disaster, you know, these things come naturally. When they happen, you just have to accept it in good faith. And then people start mobilizing, GoFundMe, going to, flood victims. I mean, we see these things coming. When you go to Churchillstown, for instance, every rainy season, okay, Ibotown and other places, every year it happens. And all that the government and other people will do is, like, when it happens, reach out to flood victims, we give them bag of rice, bag of sugar, oil, and that's it. You don't have any, like you said, there's no proactive measure from the government to say, okay, let's prevent this next year. Even in our homes individually, sometimes, you see, like you said, the way we are running this country is just pathetic. Even in our homes, sometimes when we have problems, flood and all that, sometimes the compound head will start thinking, what do we do to make sure that next year this does not
look at your corrugate.
You start thinking, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this. But now we have a government that is not even thinking like that.
Mr. Njie, I always want to tell people one thing. I love the government because I am government. Without me, there is no government. Without me and you, there is no President Barrow or anybody else. So it is in our collective interest for government to work. But the reason why we lambast government, the reason why we point fingers at government, they're not meeting and living up to the expectations of the polity, the Gambian population. Why are they not living to our expectations? We want a dignified livelihood. We don't want to be beggars. We want to be safe in our communities. We want to prosper. We want to be healthy. In the absence of this, why are we a country? My grandmother of blessed memory used to say, "Kañ la independence di jeex," because I was better off under the Tobab administration. So now I am asking myself, what has independence brought to us other than misery? Because the lifestyle of the Gambian then was better off than the living standard of the Gambian now, whether it was rural or urban. So we, the educated masses, today we are more educated than our forefathers. We have failed this country, and we have failed it woefully. And the reason why we have failed, we lack scruples and morals. Where they lacked in education, they had conviction. Where we are strong in education, we lack conscience and conviction.
And to say, still talking about the mentality, I think when these things happen, like I was watching one video, I think on Kerr Fatou, and someone commented and said, don't blame the government for everything. This is not government. Sometimes these things happen naturally. This is God and all that, and government cannot do all. I mean, I don't know why in the 21st century, how on earth can a citizen sit and say government cannot do everything? It is the responsibility of the government to fix our roads for us.
Yes.
It is the responsibility of the government to make sure that our houses are not flooded.
Amen.
It is the responsibility of the government to do its job. Nobody is there. So if I am employed today in my office, I should make sure that I go there to work. That is my responsibility. But I am not going into the street to fix the roads for the government.
No.
Sometimes when you are passing the street, some of these places, you see boys will gather somewhere and trying to fix the road, and they'll be like, let's do this. The government cannot do all.
Government
I said the government is paid for that. People in office are paid for that. They have to do the job. Unless and until we change this mentality of government cannot do all, government will always have an excuse. Because when they come, they play with us. Using the same mindset, they move along with us to say, well, government cannot do all, this is Ndogaliyala, let's accept in good faith, and we will try to see how to help each other. I mean, that is not how you build a country. I always want to take an example of Singapore. I mean, this is known to every Gambian. Singapore had independence in August 1965. We're 6 months older than Singapore. Yeah. We had our independence, political independence, let me say. I mean, 1965 February. Our populations were virtually the same. 1965, we are around 300,000. Okay, everything was the same. We are sitting in this country. Yahya Jammeh has been singing this Singaporean dream, 2020 vision, 2020. Singapore is like Singapore and Gambia are like day and night. You can't compare these two countries. So where are we as a country in this 21st century? When basic things, as if we are joking in this country. And when you talk, all that they will tell you is that government cannot do everything.
But yes, I do agree with you, and I think the whole Ndogaliyala thing is something that we should go past now. But then, like, okay, I have encountered somebody called the Kiram that they float like every year, and then what they said was, we don't have anywhere to go. So for me, I'm even thinking, I think government needs to come up with new affordable settlements where...
Still going back to the master plan.
Master plan, we don't have it now. So we don't have a master plan yet.
The urgency of now, there is what you call the urgency
yes, so the urgency of now is not the master plan.
Of course it is. No, it is, because...
It's the solution, but government will not take the master plan as the urgency.
You see, so when we're fixing a country, let us not look at problems in isolation. I'll give you a simple example. If the market in Basse didn't catch fire, it would not have been built.
Yeah.
That's to show you how backward and how, we're not ambitious.
I agree.
So, when you have a master plan, it'll tell you, this place, the growth rate, population growth rate is X. And let me tell you what the biggest problem in this country is going to be. We're going to have a population explosion. And very soon. And that's why our school systems are poor, because we didn't prepare enough schools to come up to really address the issue of population growth. So right now, let the government of the Gambia go to the drawing board, find a band-aid to fix some of the problems that are here today. But guess what? Go and look for a cast and fix the leg once and for all.
And I think that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying. So the master plan is
in the relocation
but
issue.
The relocation is what needs to be,
because I think the president said that during his visit. He said, Some of these people should be relocated. But the thing also, the question is, you're relocating them to where? One, you relocate them, are you going to give them empty land? How are they going to build those houses? Because if you say residents in Kotu around Kotu Bridge should be relocated, there are people in Ibo Town who needs to be relocated. Yes. There are people in Talim Farokona who needs to be relocated. There are people in Banjul who needs to be relocated. And all of them are going to come now. If you give the people of Kotu, give them very nice settlements and build their houses for them, others will also come. We also need it. Yeah. So how are you going to address that? But like she said, it is part of fixing the bandage. At least
because what has dawned on us without us knowing as a country, we have urban problems overnight. And these urban problems need solutions. But the solutions cannot be done in isolation because one affects the other. Transportation affects residents where people are going to live. Where people are going to live, utilities are affected.
Exactly.
So that's why
some people
a comprehensive master plan.
Because some people will prefer to live maybe in Bara or SO or even in Foni or Kiang and they come to work.
The problem.
But how do they do that every day? They cannot do that. So they have to come and live in the urban areas.
The problem of Banjul can be solved overnight, instantaneously.
Overnight?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Bridging?
No, you don't put a bridge because it's not economically feasible. If we buy 4 passenger ferries, 24-hour back and forth, no cars or anything, just passengers, then you have ferries just for cars. Guess what? You will twin Bara and Banjul. It becomes a twin city. Yeah. The expansion that you want in Banjul goes towards the Bara end. So Bara and Banjul will share revenue. You take Tobacco Road, the whole of Tobacco Road, from St. Augustine in all the way to Crab Island. Level it, they move to Bara. It's just like living in Banjul. With a good speedboat, 20 minutes, you're on the other side. There is enough land there. And that will change the problem and dynamics of Banjul. And not only that, it will now once again make Banjul to be the commercial city it used to be, because Banjul is now a ghost town.
I think people are leaving out there.
Public policy has to be creative, and public policy has to be something that is responsive to the needs of people. The needs of the people in Banjul is decent dwellings because of the swamps. So to resolve that, twin Banjul and Bara, let them become one city, one mayor, and bring the infrastructure, river ferries plying back and forth. And that's why government needs to privatize and let GPA get out of this business. Let private people, not this Turkish thing they're calling, allow people to build their own harbors and run their own ferry service.
So long as that will have consequences, privatizing that.
No, privatization is efficient. That's why
it depends on the sector as well. River transportation, you want to privatize.
Who said river transportation? Come on.
Security.
Security for who?
Security.
If you're not corrupt, why would you worry about someone coming after your neck? Come on.
That's what governments think about. Now we go to our main topic, the salary increment. When President Barrow was campaigning, I mean, way back in 2016, when this government came, it was more of civil service reform. And in the civil service reform, there should be salary structures and others, because obviously I've always said is the rich getting richer and us the poor getting poor. Because village girls, the poor girls, right? Because when managing directors are earning, ministers are earning 50,000 plus, and the cleaners and others are earning $2,000. When you give the same increment to all of them, you're not bridging the gap. Now, it was supposed to be a reform of the entire sector to look at people in different eyes, different angles. And even during the campaign, the president, actually when the president was campaigning, I think he promised, is it 50% or 100% salary increment?
I think he just said salary increment.
No, I think it was 50. I think it was 50%. Now, what we saw was the finance minister tabling a bill at the National Assembly for a 30% increment across the board. Now, the National Assembly members went back and forth. It was a heated debate, but again, at the end of the day, the 30% was passed with few amendments. Now, is that what our civil service reform needs at this point? considering what is happening, the rise, hiking prices, everything in this country is expensive. I mean, I think I saw on Nyang Njie's post, the president now will earn 300 and something, even though we still clothe him, we still feed him, we still take care of everything. Now that proportion is not fair. That's the general feeling. Even the civil service that have gotten the 30%, they will tell you this is not what we were promised. But again, ministers earning extra than even our salary.
So for me, it's not even about how much percentage was promised.
Yeah.
Because even if 100% was promised, the people who are earning up like 50%, 50,000
it's the same
now
thing.
earn 100,000. So
Yeah.
for me, it's not even about the percentage. But for me, I think what I was expecting, especially for me, I wanted National Assembly not to approve this, just get them to go back, and then the people on the lower grades, we have grades in government, whatever the lower grades are, up to a certain level, they can say if you earn, let's say 15,000 or above, you can get 30%. If you earn this much, you can get 20%. If you earn a certain amount, you're not getting an increment. At least that way, the people on the lower scale would at least come up. But if somebody gets an extra $800 is onto their salary, I mean, and somebody's getting an extra $10,000 is on top of their salaries. I mean, I have been in situations where they did increments, and what they did was senior staff were giving 1%. And junior staff were giving
well, that's what you call progressive, just like taxation.
So that way,
it has to be
feel that, okay, there's an increment, but the way it's done, so for me, National Assembly, I expected them to say, no, we're not.
No, but that was a political decision too. They didn't want, they were pegged against society.
Society, yes.
But let me tell you,
explain that to society.
No, but
yeah,
a lot of the times, National Assembly members, you talk to them, they will tell you, even the SOPs,
but then this
right?
Is what they need to explain
when the government brings a supplementary budget, right, and they tell you, oh, it's for the hospitals, it's for the farmers, and you vote against that, your people say, yeah, most of the time, this is what happens with the National Assembly members.
I remember Hamad Ba used that against Omar Sise in Nyamina.
In Nyamina, yes.
But you know, Oli, when you're doing salary, I'm an economist. If I were called, I will tell government, you need to have a progressive pay scale. Because the foundation of pay scale is equity. But for me, the 30%, 5%, 10%, it's not an issue. You know why? This government could have given civil servants a pay raise, and it will not cost them anything, and the personal emolument bill will not change by $1 extra.
How?
Thank you very much. You cannot put the cart before the horse. We need a comprehensive civil service reform. And in this comprehensive civil service reform, we need a human resource audit. The human resource audit will look at the payroll, will look at the people in the system. What is civil service? That's what we first need to understand. Civil service is the auxiliary staff that runs government for service delivery. In this auxiliary staff, you have technicians and regular people, the drivers, the messengers, the typists. These are just regular. So the most important cadre are the technical staff. So what government should do, why should government not outsource driving to companies to hire drivers? Because then they are paying taxes. You grow your economy. Why should government not give Lala cleansing service to come and clean the quadrangle instead of us keeping people on our payroll? So when you take all of these people out of the payroll, you are left with money because now you are giving contracts. Those people giving contracts will pay Social Security and taxes. So you're growing your economy. Then your staff that is left, the people that should do the technical work, you take the savings that you have made, you compensate them better on an equitable format. What has happened in Gambia? 30% of nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
So what the government has used is not equitable and is not progressive. The rich got richer and the poor got poorer, and now we have put the trigger on inflation to shoot up again, because more disposable income in the economy means more spending. More spending, the economy gets hot. When the economy gets hot, price levels changes. So it's a zero-sum game. Society didn't win having this 30%, even including the president. His 30% is 30% of nothing, because 30% will now be adjusted for inflation. And if you adjust that 30% with inflation, his real salary, real increment will not be more than 9%.
Okay, you talked about the civil service reform, and I think that is part of the reform programs of this government since it came to power in 2016 or 2017. I did not watch her contribution in Parliament, but somebody was telling me that Tumanja of Banjul South, in her submission said that before talking about even the 30% increment, you said you were on a personnel audit. That's part of the reforms, and you discovered some ghost workers, okay, who are in the system. Ghost workers could be people who died and their salaries are still running. We have that in this country.
A lot.
People who are not in the system, they have retired and their salaries are still running. Either it is going to them, full salary is going to them, or maybe something is going to them, and then half or quarter of it is is going to somebody else who is paying or whatever. But it's happening in this country. So you've done that audit, but you've not come out to tell Parliament, to give Parliament a full report to say, these are the people that we are flushing out of the system because they are ghost workers. So if you are increasing the 30%, it means it's highly probable that those ghost workers that have been in this system and have been receiving salary before this government came to power are also going to benefit from that 30%. Whether they are in their graves, they will receive the 30%, or they are alive but they have retired, they will receive the 30%, or somebody is benefiting from that. So I think this boils down to a serious civil service reform needed in this country, and the government is time that I don't know whether I will say it is late, but I think the government needs to do something about it. But then also when it comes to this salary increment, because like I always say, I think the understanding of Gambians about some of these issues is very, very important. Now, like you said, they put them with society. Society in the sense that the president made this as a political campaign or promise that we will do this, that and that and that. And this is what a lot of people are interested in. And if you go to Parliament, some of the parliamentarians, yes, some of them understand. Deliberately they are doing this for political compensation or for political reasons. But to be honest with you, some of them really have no clue, have no idea of the consequences of the salary increment or the government coming with this. Because I'm a layperson in economics, but this is very basic. If you tell us that you are going to increase salaries, then you must have a source of revenue generation. Now, where is that revenue generation coming? Are you going to borrow more money? Probably they are not doing that. Then you're going to... Well, it's either they are going to borrow more money, or they are going to increase tax.
No, but you need to understand.
That's what I'm saying. Or you're going to increase tax.
Personal emolument is a statutory payment, just like your debt. These are things that you have to pay first. Yeah? You have your budget.
Yeah.
You owe this. It's a payment that has to be made.
Yeah.
So today, if your budget says that your personal emolument bill is 200 million, after the increase, it's now 270. Even that 200 million, you were having problems meeting it. So now the plus 70 added to it needs to come from somewhere. That somewhere, when you bring it to here, is going to leave a gap there. That gap must be filled. That gap can be payments to be sent to an embassy, because money is fungible in public finance. The man who is sitting in front of the treasury can dip, regardless of what the FI says, can dip hands through Viament, take funds from here, send to there. But once you take funds from here, send to here, now there's a gap here. Ray Buki, Sul Buki. And that's how domestic debt grows.
That's what I'm saying. So it's either the government is going to borrow or it's going to increase tax, and either of the options.
Increased taxes has a limit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, because if you increase, either of them have their consequences.
Yes.
If you increase tax, for instance, obviously prices of commodities will go higher, and there is the risk of inflation. But then also you can't keep on borrowing. Right now we're talking about a national, debt of 80 billion dollars. And at the end of the day, this leads to, with my layperson understanding of economics, it will lead to balance of payment difficulties. And how do you, because you're also going to service your debt. And if you're saying
but the way we are servicing our debt is also dangerous. You know what they're doing? They're rolling over, meaning you buy treasury bills of $1 million, January 1st, December 31st, they're due plus, let's say, 13%. So you're getting $1,113,000, right? Guess what? Because you don't need your money, you're rolling it over. So when you roll it over, now you have $1,113,000 that they are going to pay you interest again for the next year. You roll it over again. And that's what you call rollover ratio on the domestic debt. And that's why the debt grows exponentially, because the interest element and the principal element is not being paid out. It's adding to the debt. My 1 million, I can leave it there for 6 years. I didn't collect it. So from first year, 1,113,000. Second year, maybe 1,314,000. Third year, 1,600,000. Before the sixth year, I'm at 2,100,000.
Yeah.
So this is how our debt has grown exponentially because of the rollover effect.
And having this government, took almost half of what Jawara and Jammeh combined took in terms of loans. It's just scary. But also,
but then for me, I say this is not just government. It's also the National Assembly, because they approve these loans. They approve it. They approve them.
They approve. That's why I'm not agreeing. Like when you say they put people against the the National Assembly. For me, they need to explain certain things. Even if everybody's waiting for that 30% increment, but the 30% increment is not even good for only that receives $1,000.
Yeah.
Come on, explain these things. Even if you have to vote, at least explain or tell these people, go back. Give only that's earning $1,000 is 30% increment. Give SR that's earning 50,000 0 increment, and let this be the discussion.
So it
don't agree.
It also has its consequences, but then also, like I said, the understanding. Because I remember when this government came, I think there was an increment of. There was a time when they increased salaries of 50% or so. So when the increment was made, there was a day I was going with my brother to Banjul. This guy works at the hospital too. I think a cleaner or so. And he was just, looking for a lift somewhere around Westfield. So we were going together, and my brother was talking to him about the economic situation and all that, and he was like, yeah, but this is good. The government has increased, Barrow has increased salaries by 50%, and that's good. So, but then he wasn't thinking of, then fuel prices have not increased. Prices of basic commodities have not increased, because these are their consequences if the government is not cognizant of the economic realities on the ground. So, but then after that, from that period to now, let's say they increase your salary by 50%. Like you said, the high income earners are earning more, and the low income earners are not earning something that will be of benefit to them. Imagine just adding $1,000 or $800. I'm just telling you that when $1,000 is used to, and
someone is getting 30,000.
Exactly. I sometimes use it for 3 days, 4 days, but now it's just 2 days.
Definitely not too high.
So we must be conscious of these realities, and it's important that we talk to the people. In fact, when I was coming here today, I was thinking of us speaking in the local language.
I know.
This part, the salary incrementing, so that, because you have a lot of people out there who don't understand. Just 2 days ago, I was talking with my mom, and I said, the salary increment, 30%, it might have its consequences, because probably, prices of commodities, because we'll have inflation and all that. And she was like, right, because not all of us are receiving salary at the end of the month. Why should that affect me? So you see the understanding, because for her, she's not working, she's not receiving any salary. Why should that have a consequence? Like, you've increased SR's salary by 30%, and now you are saying that price of commodities will skyrocket, and also price of fuel. So it's going to have effects on every citizen, whether you are working, whether you're a civil servant or not. Yeah. So these are things that we need to look at.
Yeah. I quite agree with you.
I mean, interesting times. I just hope, for me, I hope we're able to do a proper salary structure that will reflect the need of the civil service, not just piecemeal for political reasons. Yeah. And I think that is something that everybody, governments should be. I mean, we are not in any political season.
No, we are in a political.
Should take their time. And
political season will continue. Local government election. No. Local government election is just less than a year.
Politics is never on vacation.
But we finish with the
local government election is just
the most important. The presidential and the National Assembly. Local government is important. I do understand, but I think, to be honest, when we do things like this, we should.
And not only that, but even looking at, still talking about the consequences of some of these things, looking at some of these road projects that we have in the country. Like I said, making reference still to the national budget of 80 billion. if you want to build these roads, most probably, looking at the economic realities, most probably the government will have to borrow, take loans to build some of these roads. But you're taking loan, we're talking about 80 billion national debt. How many people out there are aware of this? What the politician will do is to come and fix your road. Election comes and they're like, I build the road, I build these roads, and that is the understand. It reflected in the 2021 presidential election. Shortly before the election, I was talking to someone who is from Basse. And when I was trying to gauge...
Don't go far, Oli.
The understanding, I mean, I was like, who do you think has chances in Basse? And it was like, NPP, 100%. I said, why? He said, you see, those people are benefiting for the first time.
Yeah.
Those roads, bridge. They have their market being built. But how are these things being funded? The president saying that we will roll out $80 million, $43 million.
That's huge.
But people are not asking this question. Right now, you went to parliament to have 30%, salary increment. You always going into parliament. You're always on budget support. You're always running after your development, so-called development partners, asking for budget support and all that. Where are you getting these $80 million, $43 million? Where are you taking the money from?
We all cannot ask the questions. National Assembly should be asking those questions and making sure that we are sitting, we can just talk, but we really cannot.
I mean, people out there only in this society.
We must raise the alarm.
I think it's high time that society also take the right people to parliament.
That is it.
No, but it's us. No, it's not parliament. It's you. We are not taking the right people to parliament.
It's not only that.
They are our representatives.
Yeah.
So
they need to. I mean,
but you are not taking right people to parliament.
Yeah. I mean,
I voted for a very good.
No. Collectively.
So I have taken.
Who did you vote?
No, I mean, I think also, like you said, it has to do with the caliber of people that go to parliament.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like I said, some of them might be doing this deliberate, but some of them have no.
They don't know better.
They don't even know what they are doing. Yeah. This is economics. Some of them even to read and understand some of these things it's difficult for them. How do you expect them to properly? I doubt whether these people, when they even give them these things, whether they go home and sit down and read, understand this, and it's even important that you seek advice.
But most of these people is what their party stands for. If my party members want us to against this, we're going to against it. My party wants us to support this, we're going to support it. Basically, that's what our National Assembly is.
That's why for me,
most of the time, there are few people who are really
making sure
raising the conversation.
No, but I don't know if they in politics is about numbers. I don't know if they, even if they talk, the most important thing is now whether it is approved or not approved, and the numbers, the majority will carry the vote.
Yeah.
But it's important also they try to make their stance known. They try to also make a lot of people there understand. Yeah. But it's important, Fatou, that is why I always say people must take politics seriously. You see, when I hear people say politics is how do you call it? It's for the next war, like Al-Qiyamah. It's not about Dunya, sorry. I mean, it's not about this war.
It runs our lives.
It runs our life. So we are here. People are telling us that those who believe in Islam will tell us that God will hold every leader accountable for what you did in this world. So how is politics about? And the other time I was talking, when this salary increment came, somebody in our University of the Gambia Staff Association page, an economics lecturer, sent an audio explaining some of the consequences of these things and all that. And some contributed to say, well, it's important that we talk about this as a university. We must take a leading role in some of these things. It is in UTG, because I think our education, like I said, our education system also needs to reflect the realities on the ground. You have a university where, when some of these things happen, you can't approach anybody there to say, can you give us an analysis? Do you understand my point? Because people have decided to take the back seat and say, well, I'm not interested. It's about politics. I'm not interested. But the consequences, whether you are interested or not, you will feel the brunt of the pain. Today, if fuel prices are increased, is it only Esanja and Nyang Njie who sit here and talk about this that are going to be affected? No. When the price of commodities are increased in the market, it's not only us that are going to feel. In fact, those politicians that have left everything in their hands, they don't have any idea, they don't have any knowledge or competence or expertise or whatever. They don't even feel the brunt of it like you feel it. So if people take a back seat in national issues and say, I'm not going to talk, this is politics, I'm not interested, well, you will feel the consequences. And this is what we are having right now in the country. When it comes to parliamentary election, you have people that we really think can do it. Either some of them will decide not to come over to contest for these things, but also the reason why some of them will take backseat is that the electorates will not vote for them even if they come with good ideas. They'll vote for, sorry for my words, but non-entities, people who have no ideas are the ones that they'll vote for to be in parliament. At the end of the day, they cannot even comprehend some of the issues that are happening there, talk less of representing you or serving as your voice. I take a typical example of even the draft constitution. When it was taken to parliament, I mean, some parliamentarians voted against or for, and journalists were interviewing them. One of them I remember was like, yeah, my people, because the journalist was like, what is the opinion of your people about this draft constitution? And it was like, well, my people are divided. How do you know that they are divided? You've never been there to ask them to have a consultation with them, to know what is really their concern. Even some of these issues like budget allocation, salary increment, I think when these issues of national importance arrive at the National Assembly, it is important that parliamentarians even take time to tell them, like, look, we need time to talk to our people. We want to engage with our people. But some of them are rarely. That is why I always say, even in my class, I argue that representative democracy is really losing its value, especially in this country. Because those that are supposed to represent us, be in parliament, I mean, to address some of these critical issues, are not doing that. Like Ole is saying, are they really playing that oversight function? We've seen the Gambia Ports Authority, scandal that was, promoted. I mean, Watson Gambia was there to make sure that they were checking, and they put up a petition. When the issue arrived at the committee level, I mean, the way these people were even treating the issue, it's like they are not interested. Only 2 people went there. But also, still, it's not only about parliamentarians, but it's also about the people, Gambians themselves. Are we really concerned about some of the things that are happening in this country? Gang is talking about, you're talking about the Banjul project, of a $40 million project. Banjul is flooded. You're talking about, the National Audit Office report. You're talking about the level of corruption in this country. And everybody goes to bed, it's like nothing is happening. So people don't show interest. At the end of the day, the government will be like, well, nothing is happening. In other countries, you dare not do these things, because you know if you do it, the next minute is either you are arrested or you resign. Look at what is happening in UK. I mean, when they know that their leaders know that they mess up, the most honorable thing they do is to resign, because they know that people will come after them. But here, you see, and people are used to this hype now in this country now. People are used to scandals now. It seems like everybody is used to it. There's scandal for 3 days. Yes, the karma thing. There's scandal for 3 days. Everybody talks about you.
It dies down.
3, 4, 5, 6, 1 week, it dies down, and then we get into something else. Yeah. So it's just few days that people will talk about you, and they get over it. Look at the GNPC case. Okay, the Ministry of Fisheries. All these are cases that nobody is even talking about now, because people are not showing interest in them.
Because, I mean, it's crazy. It's a whole lot of things that we can be talking about. I mean, I was just saying the other day, when the GNPC case, the ruling was going on, I didn't see anybody talking about it.
And the government is saying that they are not going to launch an investigation.
People were busy about the Bob case. And I'm like, okay, but this is how many billion that we're talking about.
$25 million.
That's why if the case was thrown out, nothing will come out of it, because government didn't produce anything
and now they're saying they're going to do an investigation.
So it's a whole lot of things, but I hope that these conversations like this will trigger the mindset, the changes in the mindset for people to take ownership of things. I think as a country also we should have priorities, but a lot of times we don't have priorities. We are not talking about these issues. People are interested in kisuma mbokala, sokolale rek manyo, kisuma leader. That's what we're interested in. But I think conversations like this, having people like Nyang Njie, who I always say, Mom, at the end of the day,
Gambians will never listen.
Care about what people.
Gambians will never listen. Yeah. Like you said, Nyang is here talking about these things, but you have thousands of people out there who are insulting him.
Yeah.
And you're the ones that are affected mostly.
Yeah. Probably,
maybe, thank God, Nyang is not that affected. Yeah. Yes, everybody will be affected, but it's not as you the way you are affected. But people will be out there, instead of appreciating what he's saying, trying to learn from them, being critical, always holding our public officials to account. We will be throwing insults at people that talk about these things. But at the end of the day, it affects us as a country.
Yeah.
Wow. But then it just comes back to one thing. We need to the responsibility of Linda job. And when we talk about government, Nyang says this, everybody says that we are the government. So everybody, wherever you are, like if everybody is doing what they are supposed to do, I'm not saying that certain things would not happen, but a lot of things can be avoided. Why people don't really care sometimes. As long as they have something extra to take home, they're fine. But then again, it trickles back down to, because civil service it's not reformed, because salaries are not good, so people also prices are hiking up, inflation and all of that. So again, people too are saying the more to survive. So you get people that will tell you point blank, like, hey boy, yo yai to fidi halad ni de Monday suma toge fuma muna leka dama leka because I have to survive. So it's a whole circle that goes in merry-go-round, like you Rob Paul, and then our National Assembly, I keep saying this, man, I want to see action in our National Assembly. I want, even if you are the lone person there, standing up and saying, you know what, this is wrong, I'm not going to vote because of what the people would think. No, I am saying no because this is not right, or this is not good, or this is the consequences. For me, that's what I want to see. And then once we have 1, 2, 3 people starting to do that, I think partisan would be, I'm not saying that they didn't gain it completely, but I believe that but if everybody's thinking, hey, let me just vote yes because this is what everybody's expecting me to vote. So you just vote yes, knowing fully well, because after that you come out and you will tell Fatou, definitely Lee can correct you. I mean, for me, that's not right. Before you come and tell Fatou Lee corrected, stand there and say, Lee corrected. Because Lee corrected, I am voting no. But the reason I'm voting no is because this and this are the consequences, and this is what I am Lilai project, let's do this and that. This would benefit this. So at least people would have more understanding. Because the way we are now, people watch National Assembly proceedings now. People are more aware. There's still awareness with Desnatuti, but then people are actually becoming more interested in how things work. And again, with regards to the flooding summit, I think national, physical planning as a department, they need to definitely do more. They need to, stop people from settling in these settlements where the Banjul project, it's a different ball game. But certain places, definitely physical planning should put their foot down and say, you cannot build your house here. Because if not, flood really much can be done. You see GoFundMes here and there, and some of these things can be avoided. Some of these things can be avoided. So, and I'm very happy and glad that we have Nyang here, and then definitely I have been quiet mom, because I was just learning.
Dama bëgg a wax nit ñi ne rongo ñi baadoo la mooy siim cere buur waxoon naa la ko moo gën xamoon naa ko. And I've been saying this for the past 2-3 months, and basically I'm saying it to the executive. There's 2 ways to bring change in a country: political change and social change. In democracies, we prefer to have political change. Political change meaning through the processes. But in the absence of good governance, in the absence of meeting the expectations of your population gets jittery. And when your population gets jittery, like what just happened in Sri Lanka, I don't wish that in my country. Why? Because we cannot afford it. We don't want disruption. But the government should help us to make sure that we don't have disruption in our democratic processes. Why? People are hungry. People are unemployed. Crime is high. Destitution is high. And corruption is flagrantly rampant. So please, the executive, the drivers of the destiny of this country, do right to your conscience first before you do right to us. Ñun ñep dañ am ngegenaay biir. You can fool people, but you cannot fool yourself. And Stevie Wonder the Blind knows that Gambia, if we were a business, we would be considered bankrupt by now. If we have a bankrupt state, we should have a total sacrifice from the farmer to the president. And I think this is the time we scale down our budget. I've said this and I'm going to say it again. If I were the president, I will suspend all transfers of diplomatic staff out of Gambia to wherever they're going to be. And the people who are out there currently, I'll extend their stay till December, because you have high cost of deployment and redeployment of the people that should come. This is the time to feel sorry for the budget of the Gambia. This is the time to understand that Gambia doesn't have an endless pit of money. Printing money is not money that you own. You are leveraging on the lives of future generations of Gambians. And the borrowing that has been done from 2016 to date is to be paid by Gambians yet unborn. And I do hope the government understands the consequences of that. Let's not use the productive feature of other Gambians for us to maintain our lifestyles today. A word to the wise is enough. But I just hope that the executive will listen to something like this. It's important. We have seen a lot of deployment to the Foreign Service, and I have not thought about that. I have not thought about the kind of money that goes into all of that. So something like this, especially now that we're struggling to do all of these things, one at a time will be good. Now that we have salary increment, maybe we can just scale down on other things as well. That will be good. Esa programa bantale ite asoro na foi masoro. Jey masoro. Esa asoro woto. Esa asoro.
You always forget me anyway. I think for me, holding the government to account, but who are the people that are going to hold the government to account?
Yeah.
It is us, the citizens. This is our country. Anything that happens in this country, whether good or bad, it will affect us. It will affect our lives and livelihoods. But I always say, and I want to pick from where Nyang stopped, we have a responsibility and a duty for the generations unborn. And we must always be ready to play our part. We have to make sure that we hold this government to account. This country, instead of progressing, is retarding. Well, we might be moving, but not progressing. Nothing is working in this country, absolutely. Nothing is working in this country. The sectors have collapsed because of the political vampires, and people are not out there to hold them to account for their actions and their words as well. So we must be ready to take that sacrifice, like he said, but also to constantly remind government of its duties, also to hold them to account. Our parliament, like we always said, this is the nerve center for me. It is the one that is holding this government. If the parliament is weak, then this country will collapse finally. But we need people in parliament that really understand some of these things, because at the end of the day, be it the loans, be it the budget, be it the international agreements, everything comes back to parliament. They are the lawmakers, they are the ones that ratify bills, they are the ones that ratify everything that comes there. So the development of this country lies partly in the hands of the National Assembly. So we must be ready to always make sure that we hold them to account for their actions and to be interested in the affairs of our country.
Thank you very much, Esa. Thank you, Oli. And thank you so much, Mr. Nyang Njie. That was an interesting conversation. And we hope to have you again very soon. Guy, you know what time we want, mashallah. Mange setan comments, ñepp ngi nan mashallah, wax ji Nyang is back. Wax bi neex na, wax bi ñor na te wax ji baax na. Thank you always for supporting us all the time on the brunch and everywhere. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gambia. We love you all.
We love you, and if you're watching Seno Stars, thank you. Good night to you all. Mustafa, how much stars? How much stars? So today you yange setan nga yone ñu stars, yange dolel Kerr Fatou, because stars you they translate into cash, and that cash we can use to develop our programming. Well, legi.
I
also wanted to understand the importance of this
stars. Musulena promote stars. Esa musuta wa guy you stars. You musulo ko. Stars.
No, but it seems Buba is competing with us.
Buba
because
is actually Buba. Every show of them they talk we might say time we send me more stars. Man, more stars than the main show. Man, right? Really, Buba? He's trying to compete with us.
Come let's send new stars.
New stars.
Are we?
Good night to you all. Bye bye. Nyang Njie. Show me Nyang Njie. Man, Nyang Njie. Bye bye. See you next.
As a low-income food deficit country, one of the two main drivers of Gambia's economic growth is agriculture. That's why North Bank Farmers Association was set up to amplify the voice and represent the interests of farmers and other agriculturalists across the country. Through its Eat What You Grow and Grow What You Eat program, the association strives to meet a growing demand for local food by helping its members to raise production efficiently. North Bank Farmers Association offers series of trainings such as practical farms record keeping and agronomics training for its members, especially the women farmers who suffer the most in getting enough to meet their basic food needs. These trainings are aimed at empowering them to improve food security and the economic status of their families. North Bank Farmers Association also supports Gambian women gardeners in the villages to fence their gardens by providing funds for fencing materials such as galvanized wires and fencing poles. This is to help boost their household food, nutrition, and income security. Among the strategic objectives of North Bank Farmers Association is to provide support and funding to build 6 cold storage facilities across the 6 regions of the Gambia and help local women and small-scale holder farmers access good markets to sell their products and services locally and through exportation to neighboring countries and the EU markets. North Bank Farmers Association is also very much into animal husbandry, fish farming and poultry, geared towards engaging the youth as an alternative to the perilous backway journey to Europe. North Bank Farmers Association, proudly supported by the Gambia Inclusive and Resilient Agricultural Value Chain Development Project GIRAV through Regional Director John Mendy. North Bank Farmers Association, a responsible grassroots model addressing the need for skills in modern agriculture, employment, increase in agricultural productivity, and food security. Better and stronger as the sole ground operator at the Banjul International Airport. With an expansion in travel services, customers are assured of GIA's capacity to cater for all their travel needs, provided by professional, experienced, and ever-smiling staff. GIA's Hajj package and services, by far the best in the country, give the customers the opportunity for a memorable Hajj experience. For a more efficient cargo services, GIA means business as it launches its new multi-million-dollar ultra-modern cargo complex to revitalize and stimulate air transport. GIA, the pride of the Gambia.
Every day is a new opportunity to make sure our first impressions are always our best and to see possibilities on the horizon. To make our facilities and services more accessible and find freedom all around us. With a location proximity to active markets with a liberal air transportation policy. That daily pursuit is how we turn everyday opportunities for you. For all destination marketing support, customized packages for new existing airlines and operators, and for a highly ranked tourist destination, the Gambia Civil Aviation Authority is here to serve. We regulate air transport, operate and manage BIA technical requirements merged with commercial considerations. We have experienced and well-trained aviation professionals to cater for your needs. For investment opportunities in building airport hotels, shopping malls, playground for children, do contact us on 4472-831, 4472-893. Gambia Civil Aviation Authority. We go beyond daily.